The bank statement in my hands proved everything I thought I knew about my place in this world was wrong. $450 million. And they had no idea. Welcome back, my amazing family. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Your love and support mean the world, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's get right into the story. The funeral was beautiful in the way only money can make death beautiful. White roses cascaded down the mahogany casket like frozen waterfalls, their perfume thick enough to choke on. St. Catherine's Cathedral was packed with San Francisco's elite, all dressed in their designer blacks, dabbing at dry eyes with monogrammed handkerchiefs. They'd come to mourn Rebecca Williams, philanthropist, socialite, beloved patron of the arts. None of them had loved her the way I did. I stood at the front pew, my dark skin a sharp contrast against the sea of pale faces behind me. My natural hair was pulled back into a simple bun, and I wore the black dress Rebecca had bought me for my college graduation 3 years ago. Nothing designer. Nothing that would make me fit in with this crowd. I'd never fit in, and we both knew it. That was the point. She was a beacon of light in this world, the pastor droned, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. I wasn't listening. I was remembering. I was remembering the woman who found me in foster care when I was 8 years old, angry and abandoned, convinced the world had nothing good left for a little black girl nobody wanted. I remembered how she'd sat on the floor of that group home playroom, her expensive cream pantsuit getting dirty on that stained carpet, and asked me what book I was reading. Nobody cares, I'd told her, clutching my worn copy of A Wrinkle in Time. I care, she'd said. And she'd meant it. Rebecca Williams didn't do charity cases. She did love. And for 16 years, she loved me fiercely, completely, in a way that confused everyone around us. Especially her husband. David Williams sat beside me now, ramrod straight in his custom Tom Ford suit, his silver hair perfectly styled even in grief. Or what passed for grief. I'd seen more emotion in a statue. His hand rested on the pew between us, close enough to look supportive in photos, far enough away to avoid actual contact. On his other side sat his sister, Patricia Huntington, her thin lips pressed into a line that might have been sadness or might have been the Botox. Probably the Botox. Patricia had never approved of me. From the moment Rebecca brought me home, Patricia had made it clear I was a phase, a project, something Rebecca would tire of eventually. 16 years later, she was still waiting. Melody. I blinked. David was standing, offering his hand to help me up. The service was over. Time to play the grieving family at the reception. I ignored his hand and stood on my own. The reception was held at the Williams estate in Pacific Heights, the mansion where I'd grown up feeling like both a princess and an imposter. Staff members I'd known for years offered sympathetic smiles as they passed champagne and canapes to guests who didn't know the difference between condolences and networking opportunities. Such a tragedy, I heard someone murmur. And so young. Only 58. I heard it was her heart, another voice whispered. Completely unexpected. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, accepting empty condolences, watching David and Patricia hold court in the main parlor. They were in their element, playing the bereaved family with practiced precision. There she is. Patricia's voice cut through the murmur of conversation. She'd cornered me in the library, Rebecca's favorite room. My favorite room. We need to discuss arrangements. Arrangements. I kept my voice level. For you, dear. Patricia's smile didn't reach her eyes. It never did. Now that Rebecca is gone, we need to think about your future. You're 24 now, finished with college. It's time to think about independence. Independence. The word tasted like acid. David and I have discussed it, and we think it's best if you move out within the month. We'll provide a generous settlement, of course. Enough to get you started. Rebecca would want you to stand on your own 2 feet. Rebecca would want nothing of the sort, and we both knew it. I see, I said carefully. Good. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. Patricia smoothed her black dress, a Chanel piece that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. We're meeting with Rebecca's attorney tomorrow at 2. Just to settle the estate matters. Formality, really. I'm sure Rebecca left you something. A trust fund, perhaps. She was always so generous with you. The way she said generous made it sound like an insult. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Patricia swept out of the library, leaving me alone among Rebecca's books. I ran my hand along the spines, remembering all the evenings we'd spent here, her teaching me about art, literature, history. Teaching me that I belonged in spaces like this, that my mind was just as sharp, my dreams just as valid as anyone's. "You're stronger than you know," she told me once. "And when the time comes, you'll know exactly what to do." I hadn't understood then. I was beginning to understand now. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. By evening, the last guests had trickled out, leaving just family. Just David, Patricia, and me in this enormous house that suddenly felt like a mausoleum. I retreated to my room, the guest room, Patricia had started calling it, and pulled out my phone. There was an email waiting, sent at 6:47 p.m. from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "From Rebecca." My hands shook as I opened it. "My dearest Melody, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you about my heart condition. I didn't want you to spend our last months together watching me die. I wanted you to live." By now, David and Patricia have probably started their performance. I know them better than they know themselves. I know what they'll try to do to you. I know what they'll say. Don't believe them. Tomorrow, you'll meet with my attorney, Jonathan Pierce. He has documents for you. Documents that will change everything. Trust him. Trust yourself. And Melody? Remember what I always told you, you were never my charity case. You were my greatest gift. My daughter in every way that matters. Play this smart, sweetheart. Wait. Watch. Let them show you exactly who they are. Then take everything that's rightfully yours. All my love, Mom. I read the email 3 times, my heart pounding. Documents that would change everything. Tomorrow at 2. Outside my window, San Francisco glittered in the darkness, all those lights representing all those lives, all those people who had no idea that in less than 24 hours, my entire world would shift on its axis. I thought about Patricia's thin smile. David's cold distance. The way they'd already started erasing me from Rebecca's story, rewriting our family history to exclude the unwanted black daughter who never quite fit. Let them, I thought. Let them show their true colors. Because tomorrow, I discover that Rebecca Williams, the woman they'd underestimated and controlled for years, had left me something far more powerful than money. She'd left me justice. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Rebecca's email played on repeat in my mind, each word weighted with meaning I couldn't quite grasp. Documents that will change everything. What documents? A trust fund like Patricia suggested? Maybe a college fund Rebecca had set aside, or ownership of some property. Whatever it was, it wouldn't matter to David and Patricia. They'd already decided my fate. 1 month to pack up 16 years of my life and disappear. I spent the dark hours before dawn walking through the mansion, memorizing it. The Persian rugs Rebecca had collected from her travels. The Monet hanging in the upstairs hallway that she'd let me study for hours when I was 12, teaching me about light and color and seeing beauty in unexpected places. The grand piano in the music room where she'd paid for lessons I never quite mastered, but she'd applauded anyway. Every corner held a memory. Every room whispered her name. By the time the sun rose over the bay, painting the water gold and pink, I'd made a decision. Whatever happened at that attorney's office, I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me broken. Rebecca had taught me better than that. I showered and dressed carefully, choosing a simple navy dress and flats. Professional but not expensive. The kind of outfit that said, I know my place. Let them think I was resigned to whatever scraps they'd throw me. Breakfast was a silent affair. David sat behind his Wall Street Journal, coffee cup in hand, not acknowledging my presence. He'd barely spoken to me since Rebecca's diagnosis 6 months ago. Before that, our relationship had been cordial at best. He tolerated me because Rebecca insisted, but there was never warmth. Never affection. I'd always wondered if it was because I was black, or because I represented Rebecca's independence, her refusal to conform to his expectations of what a society wife should be. Probably both. The car will be ready at 1:30, he said finally, not looking up from his paper. Don't be late. Jonathan Pierce doesn't appreciate having his time wasted. I won't be late, I replied. He grunted and turned the page. Patricia arrived at noon, letting herself in with her own key. She'd always had her own key, always treated this house like it was partly hers. Maybe she thought it was. Melody. She breezed into the kitchen where I was making tea, her perfume announcing her presence before her voice did. I've been thinking about your settlement. David and I discussed it, and we believe $100,000 is more than fair. It's enough to rent a nice apartment, get yourself established. You could even go back to school if you wanted. Get a graduate degree in something practical. $100,000. To walk away from the only family I'd ever known, the only home I'd ever loved. That's generous, I said, keeping my voice neutral. We think so. Patricia smiled, clearly pleased with herself. Of course, we'll expect you to be discreet. The Williams name carries weight in this city. We can't have you running around claiming to be Rebecca's daughter or making demands. There it was. The real price of their generosity. I understand, I lied. Good girl. She patted my shoulder like I was a pet who'd learned a new trick. This will be better for everyone. You can start fresh, make your own way. Isn't that what young people want? Independence. What young people wanted was not to be erased from their mother's life before she was even cold in the ground, but I didn't say that. The ride to Jonathan Pierce's office in the financial district was tense. David drove his Mercedes with precise, controlled movements, never speaking. Patricia sat in the passenger seat, occasionally making comments about traffic or the weather, filling the silence with meaningless noise. I sat in the back, watching the city slide past the window. San Francisco in October was beautiful. Clear skies, that crisp quality to the air that made everything seem sharper, more defined. Rebecca had loved autumn here. We'd spent countless weekends exploring the city together, just the two of us. Museums, bookstores, little cafes in the Mission where she'd order us both hot chocolate and we'd talk for hours. You see the world differently than most people, Melody, she told me once. Don't ever let anyone convince you that's a weakness. Your perspective is your power. The law offices of Pierce, Morrison and Associates occupied the entire 40th floor of a gleaming tower with views of the Bay Bridge. The receptionist, a polished woman in her 30s, greeted us with professional sympathy. Mr. Pierce is expecting you. Conference Room 3. Jonathan Pierce was not what I expected. I'd pictured someone older, gray-haired, traditional. Instead, a man in his mid-40s stood to greet us, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a firm handshake. Mr. Williams, Mrs. Huntington. He nodded to each of them before turning to me. His expression softened slightly. And you must be Melody. Rebecca spoke of you often. Please sit. The conference room was all glass and steel, modern and cold. David and Patricia took seats on one side of the long table. I sat across from them, feeling like this was already a battle line being drawn. Jonathan opened a leather portfolio and pulled out several documents. First, let me say how sorry I am for your loss. Rebecca was an extraordinary woman and a valued client for over 20 years. Thank you, David said stiffly. Shall we proceed? I have a meeting at 4. Something flickered across Jonathan's face, distaste, maybe, or disapproval, but he smoothed it away quickly. Of course. Rebecca's will is straightforward in most respects. There are several charitable bequests, which I'll detail momentarily. Her art collection has specific designations. And then there's the matter of her primary estate. Patricia leaned forward slightly, her interest sharpening. The house in Pacific Heights, the vacation home in Napa, her investment portfolio, and liquid assets totaling approximately $450 million. The number hung in the air like a bomb waiting to detonate. I'd known Rebecca was wealthy. You don't live in a Pacific Heights mansion and collect original Monets without money. But $450 million? That was dynasty money. Generational wealth. David cleared his throat. Yes, well, I assume the properties and assets will be transferred to me, as her husband. Standard procedure. Actually, no. Jonathan's voice was gentle but firm. He pulled out another document, this one thick with legal seals and signatures. Rebecca was very specific in her wishes. The Pacific Heights residence, the Napa property, her entire investment portfolio, all liquid assets, and full ownership of Williams Industries holdings she personally owned, everything, goes to her daughter. The word daughter seemed to echo in the silent room. Patricia laughed, sharp and disbelieving. That's ridiculous. Rebecca didn't have a daughter. She had no children. That's not accurate. Jonathan pulled out another document, this one older, dated 15 years ago. In 2010, Rebecca legally adopted Melody Williams. Full adoption, sealed records. Melody is her daughter in every legal sense. The world tilted sideways. Adopted. Rebecca had adopted me. Not just taken me in, not just raised me. Legally, permanently, irrevocably claimed me as her daughter. That's impossible, David said, his voice tight. I would have known. I would have had to sign papers. Rebecca retained her own attorney for personal matters, separate from family business. It was her right as an individual. Jonathan's tone was professional, but I heard the steel underneath. The adoption was legal and binding. Which means, according to California law and Rebecca's explicit will, Melody Williams inherits the entirety of her mother's personal estate. This is insane. Patricia's voice rose, her composure cracking. She can't just leave everything to her daughter, Jonathan finished quietly. Yes, she can. And she did. He slid a document across the table to me. My hands trembled as I picked it up. At the top, in bold letters, Last Will and Testament of Rebecca and Williams. I scanned the pages, the legal language blurring together until certain phrases jumped out. To my beloved daughter Melody Williams, I leave everything. Primary beneficiary of all assets, properties and holdings. $450 million in liquid assets and securities. Full ownership of. The list went on. And on. And on. There must be some mistake, David said. His face had gone pale. Rebecca wouldn't, she couldn't. There's no mistake. Jonathan's voice was firm. I drafted this will myself, at Rebecca's explicit instruction. She was of sound mind, under no duress. She made her wishes abundantly clear. I looked up from the papers, my vision swimming. Across the table, David and Patricia stared at me with identical expressions of shock, rapidly morphing into something uglier. Rage. I need to see those adoption papers, Patricia demanded. This is fraud. It has to be. She manipulated Rebecca, probably forged. I'll stop you right there, Mrs. Huntington. Jonathan's voice cut through her accusations like a knife. Any suggestion of fraud or manipulation will be met with legal action. The adoption is legitimate. The will is legitimate. And as of this moment, Melody Williams is one of the wealthiest young women in California. The words didn't feel real. None of this felt real. $450 million. Everything Rebecca had built, saved, invested, all of it, left to me. You can't do this, David said, standing abruptly. I'll contest it. Rebecca was ill. She wasn't thinking clearly. Any judge will see. Any judge will see a legal will, properly executed, by a woman who was evaluated by 3 separate physicians and found to be of completely sound mind. Jonathan stood as well, matching David's height. I'd advise against contesting this. Rebecca anticipated that possibility and left very specific instructions for how to handle it. What instructions? Patricia's voice was venomous. Jonathan smiled, but it wasn't kind. That's between me and my client. But I assure you, Rebecca thought of everything. The meeting dissolved into chaos after that. Patricia's voice rose to a screech, demanding to see papers, threatening lawsuits, calling me names I'd heard before but never from someone who'd pretended to care about me. David was quieter but no less furious, his jaw clenched so tight I thought he might crack a tooth. Through it all, I sat frozen, the will clutched in my hands. Rebecca had known. She'd known exactly what they would do, how they would react. And she'd protected me. She'd given me everything, not just money but power. Legal, undeniable power. Play this smart, sweetheart. Wait. Watch. Let them show you exactly who they are. Her email suddenly made perfect sense. This wasn't just an inheritance. This was a test. A trap. A chance for me to see who these people really were when they thought I had nothing. And I'd almost missed it. Melody. Jonathan's voice cut through my thoughts. I need your signature on a few documents to begin the transfer process. Would you like to? No, I heard myself say. Everyone stopped. Turned. Stared. No. Jonathan's eyebrows rose. I stood slowly, an idea forming. Reckless, maybe. Brilliant, possibly. Definitely something Rebecca would approve of. I need time, I said carefully. It's a lot to process. Can we postpone the transfer? Keep everything as is for now. Understanding dawned in Jonathan's eyes. A small smile played at the corners of his mouth. We can delay the official transfer for up to 90 days, if you wish. The will is still valid and legally binding, but the actual movement of assets can be postponed. Good, I said. Let's do that. Patricia's laugh was bitter. Having second thoughts about stealing everything? I looked at her directly for the first time since the reading began. Really looked at her. At both of them. I'm not stealing anything, I said quietly. But I think Rebecca was right. I need to see who people really are before I make any decisions. The drive home was silent as a tomb. The mansion felt different when we returned. Or maybe I felt different. Either way, every room seemed to pulse with new meaning, new possibility. This wasn't David's house anymore. It wasn't even Rebecca's house anymore. It was mine. But they didn't know that. And I wasn't going to tell them. Not yet. David disappeared into his study the moment we arrived, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Patricia followed me into the kitchen, her heels clicking against the marble floor like gunshots. I don't know what game you're playing, she said, her voice low and dangerous, but it won't work. Rebecca was clearly not in her right mind when she made that ridiculous will. We'll have it overturned within a month. I filled a glass with water from the tap, taking my time. Mr. Pierce seemed to think it was airtight. Mr. Pierce is a bleeding heart who probably encouraged Rebecca's delusions. Patricia's perfectly made-up face twisted with contempt. She always had a savior complex, picking up strays. But this? Leaving everything to you? It's obscene. There it was again. That word that had followed me my entire life here, stray. Like I was a dog Rebecca had found on the street, not a child who'd needed love. Rebecca loved me, I said simply. Rebecca pitied you. Patricia stepped closer, her expensive perfume making my eyes water. There's a difference. And now you're trying to take advantage of that pity, manipulate your way into wealth you have no right to. I didn't manipulate anything. I didn't even know. Didn't know. Her laugh was harsh. Please. You expect me to believe you had no idea? That you weren't whispering in her ear for years, playing the poor orphan card, making her feel guilty? The accusation stung more than it should have. Because hadn't I wondered, sometimes, if Rebecca's love was just elaborate guilt? Hadn't I questioned whether I deserved any of it? But then I remembered the adoption papers. 15 years ago. I'd been 9 years old, barely able to understand what adoption meant, let alone manipulate someone into it. Believe what you want, I said, setting down my glass. The will is legal. For now. Patricia's smile was cold. But you're a smart girl, Melody. Smart enough to know you don't belong in this world. Smart enough to take a reasonable settlement and disappear before things get ugly. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you a way out. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and showed me a number. $250,000. Cash. Tax-free. Sign away your claim to the estate, and it's yours. You could go anywhere, do anything. Start fresh somewhere people don't know you're not really a Williams. Not really a Williams. The words hit like a slap. Except I was a Williams. Legally, permanently, adopted. More legitimate than David, who was only connected to Rebecca by a marriage that, from what I'd observed, had been cold and transactional for years. I'll think about it, I lied. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Don't think too long. My generosity has limits. She left, her perfume lingering like a threat. I stood in that kitchen, my kitchen technically, and let the reality sink in. They were going to fight this. They were going to make my life hell until I either gave up or broke down. Patricia's offer was just the beginning. Next would come the real pressure. The manipulation. The cruelty. Rebecca had known. That's why she'd sent that email. That's why she'd told me to wait and watch. I pulled out my phone and reread her message. Let them show you exactly who they are. Okay, Mom, I thought. I'll watch. I'll wait. And I'll remember everything. That night, I heard them arguing in David's study. The walls in the old mansion were thick, but their voices carried through the heating vents. Can't just accept this. Patricia's voice, shrill with fury. What do you suggest? David's tone was clipped, controlled, but I heard the anger underneath. The will is legal. Pierce made that abundantly clear. So we can test it. Claim Rebecca was mentally incompetent. She was evaluated by 3 physicians. Pierce has documentation. Then we find something on the girl. There has to be something. People like her always have secrets. People like her. People like me. I pressed my ear closer to the vent in my bedroom floor. What are you suggesting? David asked. I'm suggesting we make her life so miserable she takes the money and runs. $250,000 is nothing compared to what she stands to inherit, but it's more than someone like her ever dreamed of having. Someone like her. Someone like me. Black. Poor. Unwanted. And if she doesn't run? A pause. Then Patricia's voice, colder than I'd ever heard it. Then we destroy her. Systematically. Publicly. We make it impossible for her to show her face in society. We make her understand she doesn't belong in our world. That seems extreme. Extreme? She's trying to steal $450 million. Rebecca's entire fortune. Money that should come to you, to us, to our family. Real family. Not some charity case with a legal document. Another pause. Longer this time. Fine, David said finally. But carefully. We can't give Pierce any ammunition. Leave it to me. I know exactly how to handle this. I pulled back from the vent, my heart hammering. This was it. This was what Rebecca had warned me about. They weren't going to fight fair. They were going to try to break me. The question was, would I let them? I spent the next morning in my room, thinking. Planning. Rebecca had been a master strategist. You didn't build a fortune and navigate high society for decades without learning how to play the game. She taught me some of it, probably more than I'd realized at the time. The best defense is patience, she told me once, when I'd come home from school crying because some girls had called me names. Let people underestimate you. Let them think you're weak. Then when they're not expecting it, you remind them exactly who you are. My phone buzzed. A text from Jasmine Chun, my best friend since freshman year at Berkeley. Heard about Rebecca. I'm so sorry, babe. Want to get coffee? I'm here if you need to talk. Jasmine. God, I needed a friendly face. Someone who knew me before all this, who wasn't connected to the Williams family drama. Yes, please. Usual place? 2 p.m.? See you there, Redhar. The usual place was a small cafe in the Castro, far enough from Pacific Heights that I'd never run into David's social circle. Jasmine was already there when I arrived, her long black hair pulled into a ponytail, wearing her Berkeley sweatshirt even though she'd graduated 2 years ago. She stood and pulled me into a fierce hug. I'm so sorry, Mel. I know how much she meant to you. The tears came then, unexpected and overwhelming. I'd been holding it together for days, playing strong, but Jasmine's kindness broke something open inside me. We sat, and I told her everything. The funeral. The reading of the will. The adoption I never knew about. The inheritance that changed everything. Holy shit, Jasmine breathed. 450 million. Give or take. And they didn't know about the adoption? Nobody did. Rebecca kept it private. I stirred my coffee, watching the cream swirl. She must have known they'd react like this. Like what? I told her about Patricia's offer. The conversation I'd overheard. The threat to destroy me. Jasmine's face darkened. That's insane. You should tell the lawyer. Get a restraining order or something. I can't prove anything. It was a private conversation. I took a sip of coffee, bitter and strong. Besides, Rebecca told me to wait. To watch. She had a plan. What kind of plan? I don't know yet. But she left me that email. She knew they'd show their true colors. I think she wanted me to see it for myself. So what are you going to do? I looked out the window at the Castro Street crowds, all those people living their normal lives, unaware that mine had just been turned inside out. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I said slowly, the plan crystallizing as I spoke. I'm going to pretend to be weak, scared, overwhelmed. I'm going to let them think they're winning. While I document everything. Every threat, every manipulation, every racist comment. Rebecca was smart enough to protect me legally. Now I need to be smart enough to protect myself from everything else. Jasmine grinned. Okay, that's some next-level chess move shit. I'm here for it. What do you need? A friend who'll believe me when I say it's getting bad. Someone who'll help me remember I'm not crazy when they start gaslighting me. Done. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You've got this, Mel. Rebecca chose you for a reason. She knew you were strong enough to handle this. I wanted to believe that. God, I wanted to believe that. We talked for another hour, about nothing and everything. Classes she was taking for her graduate program. Her boyfriend problems. Normal things that made me feel human again, not just an heiress or a charity case or whatever else people wanted to call me. When I got back to the mansion, David was waiting in the foyer. We need to talk, he said. His study smelled like expensive leather and old money. He gestured to a chair across from his massive desk, and I sat, feeling small in the cavernous room lined with books he'd probably never read. I've been thinking about the situation, he began, his voice measured. This was David at his most dangerous. Calm, controlled, reasonable. I understand this has been overwhelming for you. Finding out about the adoption, the inheritance. It's a lot for anyone to process, let alone someone your age. Someone my age. 24. Like I was a child. I'm managing, I said. I'm sure you think you are. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. But the reality is, you're not prepared for this. Managing wealth of this magnitude requires expertise, connections, understanding of financial markets and legal structures. Things you don't have. I can learn. Of course you can. You're a bright girl. Rebecca always said so. His tone was patronizing, like he was praising a performing pet. But learning takes time. In the meanwhile, that fortune is vulnerable. To market fluctuations, to legal challenges, to people who would take advantage of your inexperience. People like you and Patricia? His jaw tightened. That's not what I'm suggesting. What are you suggesting? He pulled out a document from his desk drawer. A compromise. You sign over financial management of the estate to me, temporarily, of course. Just until you're ready to handle it yourself. In exchange, you'll receive a very generous monthly allowance. Say, $50,000. That's more than enough to live comfortably, pursue your interests, build your own life. $50,000 a month. $600,000 a year. To most people, that would sound like a fortune. To someone who just inherited $450 million, it was a prison sentence. And you'd manage everything else. I asked carefully. Exactly. The properties, the investments, the business holdings. I've been managing money for 30 years, Melody. I know what I'm doing. This way, you don't have the stress of responsibility, and the estate is protected. Protected. What a word. Protected for whom? What does Mr. Pierce think of this idea? I asked. David's expression flickered. Pierce works for the estate. Once we make this arrangement, we can hire our own financial advisors. So you haven't talked to him about it? I'm talking to you about it. You're the beneficiary. It's your decision. I looked at the document on his desk. Thick, full of legal language I'd need a lawyer to parse. Exactly the kind of thing you'd use to trap someone who didn't know better. I need time to think about it, I said. Time. His voice hardened slightly. Melody, every day we wait is a day that fortune is at risk. As your father. You're not my father. The words hung between us, sharp as broken glass. David's face went cold. Excuse me. You're Rebecca's husband. That's all. You never adopted me. You barely spoke to me for 16 years. So don't pretend this is fatherly concern. I stood, my legs shaking but my voice steady. I'll think about your offer. I'll give you an answer in a week. Melody. 1 week, David. I left before he could respond, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. I'd never spoken to him like that. Never challenged him directly. For 16 years, I'd been the grateful orphan, the quiet charity case who didn't make waves. But that girl was gone. As I climbed the stairs to my room, I heard Patricia's voice from the parlor, speaking on the phone. Exactly what I told you. She's completely out of her depth. Give me 2 weeks, and she'll be begging to sign everything over. No, she has no idea what she's doing. Trust me, this will be easier than I thought. I kept walking, kept my expression neutral even though fury burned in my chest. Let them think I was weak. Let them think I was stupid. Let them show me exactly who they were. Because Rebecca had given me more than money. She'd given me time. 90 days before the official transfer. 90 days to watch, wait, and gather evidence. 90 days to plan my revenge. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recorder app. If they wanted to destroy me, I was going to make sure I had receipts. Every word. Every threat. Every moment of their true colors showing. Rebecca had taught me patience. Now it was time to teach them justice. The first direct attack came 3 days later, wrapped in the disguise of concern. I was having breakfast, alone as usual, when Patricia arrived with a woman I'd never seen before. Mid-50s, expensive suit, briefcase that screamed lawyer or accountant. Melody, this is Victoria Sterling, Patricia announced, her smile bright and fake as a cubic zirconia. She's a financial advisor I've worked with for years. I thought she could help you understand your options. Victoria extended a manicured hand. It's lovely to meet you, dear. Patricia has told me so much about your situation. My situation. Like I was a problem to be solved. I already have an advisor, I said, not taking her hand. Mr. Pierce is handling everything. Jonathan Pierce is an estate attorney, not a financial planner, Victoria said smoothly, settling into a chair uninvited. What you need is someone who specializes in wealth management. Someone who can help you make smart decisions about your future. Patricia poured herself coffee, playing hostess in what was technically my house now. We're just trying to help, Melody. You can't possibly manage this alone. I set down my fork, my appetite gone. I appreciate the concern, but I'm fine. Are you? Victoria pulled a folder from her briefcase. Because from what I understand, you're sitting on nearly $500 million in liquid assets, with no financial background, no investment experience, and no plan. That's not fine. That's dangerous. She spread papers across the breakfast table. Charts, graphs, projections, all designed to look impressive and intimidating. Without proper management, you could lose millions to poor investments, tax penalties, inflation. Victoria's voice was smooth, hypnotic. Or worse, you could be targeted by scammers, con artists, people who prey on inexperienced heirs. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was warning me about con artists while actively trying to con me. What exactly are you suggesting? I asked. A comprehensive management plan. Victoria tapped one of the documents. You sign over financial control to a trust that Patricia and I would oversee. You'd receive a substantial monthly allowance, let's say $75,000, while the bulk of the estate is invested properly, protected from your inexperience. $75,000. More than David's offer. They were bidding against each other, I realized. Both trying to buy my inheritance for pennies on the dollar. And what would you get out of this arrangement? I asked Victoria. Standard management fees. 2% annually. 2% of $450 million. $9 million a year. For doing what, exactly? Stealing from me slowly instead of all at once? I'll think about it, I said, standing. Melody, please. Patricia's voice took on a pleading tone I'd never heard before. We're trying to protect you. You don't understand how this world works. People will take advantage. Like you're doing right now? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Patricia's face went pale, then flushed red. "How dare you," she hissed. "After everything we've done for you. Taking you in, giving you a home, treating you like family." "You never treated me like family," I said quietly. "You tolerated me because Rebecca insisted. But the moment she died, you started trying to push me out." "That's not true." "Isn't it? You gave me 1 month to move out. Offered me 100,000 to disappear. Now you're trying to trick me into signing over everything Rebecca left me." I looked at Victoria. "Did she tell you Rebecca legally adopted me? That I'm not just some charity case, I'm her daughter?" Victoria's expression flickered, surprise, then calculation. She hadn't known. Patricia had probably pitched this as helping a naive young woman who'd manipulated her way into an inheritance. "I think I should go," Victoria said, gathering her papers quickly. "Excellent idea," I replied. After she left, Patricia and I stood in silence. The mask had slipped. I could see the rage in her eyes, the contempt she'd been hiding behind false concern. "You're making a mistake," she said finally. "A very big mistake." "Am I?" "You think you're so smart, don't you? Rebecca's little pet, all grown up and ready to play with the big money." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "But you're still just a scared little black girl who doesn't belong here. You'll never belong here. And soon, everyone will see it." There it was. The racism she'd kept carefully concealed for 16 years, finally bubbling to the surface. I kept my voice steady, even as my heart raced. "Is that a threat?" "It's reality. You can have all the money in the world, but you'll still be you. And people like us? We protect our own. We close ranks. You'll be shut out of every social circle, every charity board, every door that matters in this city." Her smile was cruel. "Rebecca could force people to accept you when she was alive. But she's gone now. And without her protection, you're nothing." I should have been scared. Maybe part of me was. But a bigger part felt something else entirely. Clarity. This was what Rebecca wanted me to see. Not just their greed, but their hatred. The ugliness that had always been there, hidden behind polite smiles and surface kindness. "Thank you," I said. Patricia blinked. "What?" "For being honest." Finally. I picked up my phone from the table, where it had been recording the entire conversation. "It's refreshing." Her eyes went wide as she realized what I'd done. "You can't, that's illegal." "California is a 2-party consent state for private conversations," I said calmly. "But this is my house. My breakfast room. And you were never invited. That makes you a trespasser. Which means I can record whatever I want." I had no idea if that was actually true, but it sounded good. And from the way Patricia's face went pale, she wasn't sure either. "You little." "I think you should leave now," I interrupted. "In fact, I think you should give me your key. All your keys to this house. This house belonged to my brother-in-law. This house belonged to Rebecca. Now it belongs to me. And you're no longer welcome here." For a moment, I thought she might actually hit me. Her hand twitched, her face twisted with rage. But she controlled herself, barely. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice shaking. "Maybe. But at least I'll regret it in my own house." She threw her keys on the table with a clatter and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I stood alone in the breakfast room, my hands trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. I'd just declared war. There was no going back from this. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Well done. Your mother would be proud. Meet me at my office tomorrow at 10 a.m. We need to talk strategy. JP. Jonathan Pierce." He'd been watching somehow, or Patricia had already called him to complain. I texted back, "I'll be there." Then I sat down, replayed the recording, and smiled. Round 1 to me. Jonathan Pierce's office felt different the second time. Less intimidating, maybe because I was starting to understand the power I held. Or maybe because Jonathan greeted me with something that looked almost like approval. "Coffee," he offered, gesturing to the leather chairs by the window. "Please." He poured 2 cups from an expensive-looking machine, handed me one, and settled into the chair across from me. "I heard you had an interesting morning yesterday." Patricia called you. Screamed at me would be more accurate. Threatened to sue me, you, and anyone else she could think of for conspiracy, undue influence, and emotional distress. He sipped his coffee. It was actually quite entertaining. I recorded our conversation, I admitted. Was that stupid? Smart, actually. Though legally complicated. He set down his cup. California recording laws are tricky, but in your own home, with someone who's essentially trespassing after you've asked them to leave? That's defensible. Especially given her threats. So I can use it? If you need to. But Melody, I want to be clear about something. What you're doing, keeping the inheritance secret, letting them show their true colors, it's brilliant. It's exactly what Rebecca wanted. But it's also dangerous. Dangerous how? Jonathan leaned forward, his expression serious. Patricia and David are desperate. Desperate people do desperate things. They will escalate. They'll try to destroy your reputation, isolate you from friends, maybe even manufacture evidence of wrongdoing. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Patricia's words. You'll be shut out of every social circle, every charity board, every door that matters. I don't care about their social circles, I said. Maybe not. But you care about your mother's legacy. Her charities, her foundations, the causes she championed. They'll come after those too. They'll claim you're unfit, that you're squandering her life's work. Can they do that? They can try. Public opinion is a powerful weapon. He pulled out a folder. Which is why Rebecca left you this. Inside were dozens of documents. Financial records showing David's mismanagement of his own investments. Photos of Patricia at exclusive events, dripping in jewels while declining to donate to the very charities she claimed to support. And letters, dozens of them, from Rebecca documenting every instance of their cruelty, their racism, their greed. She was building a case, I whispered. For years. Every time they made a racist comment, every time they treated you as less than, she documented it. She knew this day would come. Jonathan's voice was gentle. She also knew you'd need proof when they tried to destroy you. I flipped through the letters, my vision blurring with tears. Rebecca's handwriting filled page after page. Today Patricia suggested Melody should consider a more appropriate college than Stanford. When I asked what she meant, she said Stanford is very competitive, and maybe Melody would be happier somewhere less demanding. The subtext was clear. David forgot Melody's birthday again. 3rd year in a row. He never forgets his niece Caroline's birthday. Overheard Patricia telling a friend at the club that I've ruined my legacy by adopting that girl. She didn't even use Melody's name. Years of proof. Years of love, documented in ink. Why didn't she ever show me these? I asked. Because she didn't want you to feel like you had to fight this battle while she was alive. She wanted you to have a choice. To decide for yourself how to handle them when the time came. And she thought I'd choose to watch them destroy themselves. She thought you'd choose justice. Rebecca believed in you more than you know. Jonathan stood, walked to his desk, and pulled out another envelope. She left you one more thing. I was instructed to give this to you only after you'd seen their true nature. Inside was a thumb drive and a handwritten note. My darling Melody. If Jonathan gave you this, it means they've shown you who they really are. I'm sorry you had to see it. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from their ugliness. But I also know you're strong enough to handle it. You always have been. This drive contains recordings, audio and video, from the past 5 years. Every family dinner, every holiday gathering, every moment I suspected they might reveal themselves. I wore a recording device, sweetheart. Always. Use them if you need to. Or don't. The choice is yours. Whatever you decide, know this, you are my daughter. Not because of paperwork, but because I chose you. Because you chose me. Because love is always a choice, and I would choose you 1,000 times over. Make them regret underestimating you. All my love, Mom. I clutched the note, the words swimming through my tears. She'd thought of everything. Protected me in ways I was only now beginning to understand. Jonathan, I said slowly. What would happen if I did nothing? If I just took the inheritance and cut them out completely? You'd be well within your rights. They'd probably still contest the will, but they'd lose. Eventually. But it would be messy. Public. Drawn out. Yes. I looked out the window at the San Francisco skyline, all those buildings full of people fighting their own battles, chasing their own justice. Rebecca didn't want me to just win, I said. She wanted me to make them pay. Not just financially. She wanted them exposed for who they really are. I believe so. Then that's what I'll do. I stood, tucking the thumb drive into my purse. But I need your help. You have it. What do you need? Time. Information. And a really good accountant. I smiled, feeling something fierce and determined settling into my chest. If they want to destroy me, they'll have to work for it. And every step they take, every threat they make, every racist comment they let slip, I'll document it all. Just like Rebecca did. And then when they think they've won, when they think they've broken me. I met his eyes. I'll show them exactly what happens when you underestimate Rebecca Williams' daughter. Jonathan's smile was sharp. She really did choose the right person. We spent the next hour going through strategy. Jonathan connected me with a forensic accountant who could track any attempt to manipulate Rebecca's assets. He gave me the names of private investigators who could document harassment. He outlined exactly what constituted legal evidence versus inadmissible recording. By the time I left his office, I had a plan. Not just to survive their attacks, but to turn each one into ammunition. My phone buzzed as I walked to my car. A text from Jasmine. Lunch? I have tea to spill about my thesis advisor. Can't today. Rain check? Dealing with family drama. Everything okay? I thought about how to answer that. Was everything okay? I was at war with my adoptive family. I was sitting on a secret fortune. I was planning a revenge plot that Rebecca had set in motion before her death. Everything's complicated. But I think I'm finally understanding what I need to do. Cryptic, but okay. I'm here if you need me. I know. Love you. Love you too, babe. I sat in my car for a long moment before starting the engine. Somewhere in Pacific Heights, David and Patricia were probably plotting their next move. Figuring out how to discredit me, isolate me, force me to surrender. Let them plot. I had Rebecca's evidence. Jonathan's expertise. And most importantly, I had time. 90 days to let them hang themselves with their own rope. 90 days to gather every piece of evidence I needed. 90 days until I revealed the truth and took everything that was rightfully mine. The war had begun. And I was going to win. The social media attack started on a Wednesday. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. My Instagram, which I rarely used, had exploded overnight with comments, tags, and messages. My stomach dropped as I scrolled through them. Can't believe she's trying to steal from her own family. Gold digger alert. This is what happens when people forget their place. That last one came with 3 photographs. Me at Rebecca's funeral, looking composed. Me leaving Jonathan's office yesterday. And me years ago at a charity gala, standing awkwardly next to Rebecca in a dress that had been expensive but never quite fit right. The caption read, "Sources say Melody Williams is contesting the Williams family estate, claiming Rebecca Williams left her everything despite having no biological connection. Family friends say she manipulated the elderly widow for years. #golddigger #family betrayal." The post came from an account called SF Society Insider, anonymous, but clearly connected to someone with access to society gossip. Someone like Patricia. My phone rang. "Jasmine. Please tell me you're seeing this," she said without preamble. "I'm seeing it. It's everywhere, Mel. Twitter, Instagram, even some society blog picked it up. They're making you sound like a con artist." Her voice was tight with anger. "Who's doing this?" "Patricia. Or someone she hired." I sat up in bed, my mind racing. They're trying to destroy my reputation before I can claim the inheritance. Can they do that? Isn't that slander or something? Probably. But proving it, fighting it in court, that takes time. Time they're hoping I don't have. I pulled up the post again, studying the photos. Professional quality, strategic angles. This wasn't amateur hour. They're smart. Everything is phrased as sources say, and allegedly. No direct accusations they can be sued for. So what are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? I could respond publicly, defend myself, explain the truth. But that would mean revealing the inheritance, the adoption, everything I'd been keeping secret. It would ruin Rebecca's plan, and mine. Or I could stay silent and let them paint me as a villain. Nothing, I said finally. Nothing? Mel, they're destroying you. Let them. I stood, walked to my window. The San Francisco fog was rolling in, obscuring the city in gray. If I respond, I show my hand. If I stay quiet, they'll escalate. Push harder. Make mistakes. And if they don't? What if everyone believes them? Then I'll know who my real friends are. Jasmine was quiet for a moment. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I haven't decided which. Maybe both. For the record, I don't care if you manipulated 100 old ladies. You're my best friend, and I'm ride or die. Her voice cracked slightly. But please be careful. These people are dangerous. I know. I will. After he hung up, I got dressed and went downstairs. David was in the breakfast room, newspaper in hand, coffee steaming beside him. He didn't look up when I entered. Interesting reading this morning? I asked, pouring myself coffee. I don't engage with social media gossip, he said dismissively. Right. So you have no idea how I'm being dragged through the mud online. If you're referring to the unfortunate posts about the estate dispute, I'd say that's the natural consequence of your unreasonable behavior. He finally looked at me, his expression cold. You could end all of this by being sensible. Sign the management agreement, accept a generous settlement, and move on with your life. The management agreement you tried to trick me into signing? The one that would give you control of everything Rebecca left me. I'm trying to protect her legacy. You're trying to steal it. I sat down across from him. Tell me, David, did you love her at all? Or was it always about the money? His jaw tightened. How dare you? It's a simple question. Because from where I'm sitting, you spent decades married to a woman you barely spoke to, ignored the daughter she adopted, and the moment she died, you started fighting over her fortune like a vulture. You are not her daughter. His voice was ice. You're a stranger she brought into this house out of misplaced guilt. An obligation she dressed up as love. Is that what you tell yourself? It's the truth. Rebecca felt guilty about her privilege, her wealth. You were her penance. A way to feel better about being born rich and white. He stood, towering over me. But penance ends with death, Melody. And now you need to understand your place. My place, I repeated softly. You mean where you think I belong? I mean where everyone knows you belong. You can fight this all you want, but you'll lose. Not legally, perhaps. Pierce is too good for that. But socially? Personally? You'll be destroyed. No one will hire you. No charity will accept your donations. No door in society will open for you. Because I'm black. Because you're nobody. He leaned down, his face close to mine. Rebecca could pretend otherwise, but without her, that's all you are. Nobody. Nothing. A foster kid who got lucky for a while and forgot it wasn't permanent. I met his eyes, keeping my expression blank even as rage simmered in my chest. Are you finished? I'm finished when you sign those papers. Then I guess we'll be here a while. He left, slamming the door behind him. I sat in the sudden silence, my hands shaking around my coffee cup. My phone was in my pocket, recording app running. Every word documented. They were giving me everything I needed. Every threat, every slur, every moment of cruelty, all evidence. All ammunition. But God, it hurt. Knowing that this was how they really saw me. How they'd always seen me. Rebecca's penance. A nobody. Nothing. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Melody Williams? A woman's voice, professional and brisk. Yes. This is Christine Park from the San Francisco Chronicle. I'm doing a story on the Williams estate dispute, and I'd love to get your side of things. A reporter. Of course. The social media campaign was just the beginning. No comment, I said. I understand you're claiming Rebecca Williams left you her entire fortune. Can you confirm that? No comment. Sources say you manipulated an elderly woman into changing her will. Would you like to respond to those allegations? Ms. Park, with all due respect, I'm not going to try this in the press. If you have questions about the estate, I'd suggest you contact the attorney handling it, Jonathan Pierce. So you're not denying the allegations? I hung up. My hands were shaking harder now. This was the escalation Jonathan had warned me about. Social media was just the first wave. Now they'd go to the press, plant stories, create a narrative where I was the villain and they were the victims. Another text came through, this time from a number I recognized. Patricia. This is just the beginning. Give up now, and we'll call off the dogs. Fight us, and we'll bury you. Your choice. I stared at the message, feeling something cold and determined settle over me. My choice. They kept saying that, like they were giving me options. But there was only one choice here. The choice Rebecca had made when she left me everything. The choice she'd made when she documented their hatred. The choice she'd made when she trusted me to finish what she started. I texted back, "Do your worst." Then I called Jonathan. "They're going to the press," I said when he answered. "And they've started a social media campaign." I saw. I'm already drafting a response. No response. Not yet. I looked around the breakfast room, Rebecca's beautiful home that was now mine. Let them keep going. Let them think they're winning. Melody, if we don't push back, the narrative. The narrative doesn't matter. Not yet. What matters is that every attack they make is documented. Every lie they tell is on record. So when the time comes to expose them, we have everything. Jonathan was quiet for a moment. Then, "You sound like your mother." "Good," I said. "Because I'm going to need all her strength to survive what comes next." The homeless shelter on Mission Street smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. I'd never imagined I'd end up here, but David had made his move 3 weeks after the social media campaign started, and it was devastatingly effective. My bank accounts were frozen. All of them. Pending investigation into financial fraud, the bank manager had said, not meeting my eyes. Someone had filed a complaint claiming I'd forged documents, manipulated banking records, committed identity theft. All lies, but lies with enough official paperwork to trigger an immediate freeze. I couldn't access my savings, the modest amount I'd earned from part-time jobs through college. Couldn't use my credit cards. Couldn't even withdraw $20 for groceries. And David, who technically still owned the Pacific Heights mansion until the estate transfer was finalized, had changed the locks. "You're not family," he'd said when I called him, my hands shaking with rage and disbelief. "You're a squatter. And I'm well within my rights to remove you from my property." "It's not your property. It's Rebecca's. It's mine." "Prove it." "Oh wait, your accounts are frozen, so you can't even afford a lawyer to fight me." He'd hung up while I was still screaming. That was 2 days ago. I'd spent the first night in my car, parked in a neighborhood I didn't know, jumping at every sound. The second night, when I realized this wasn't going to be resolved quickly, I'd swallowed my pride and come here. Now I sat on a narrow cot in a room with 30 other women, holding a plastic bag with everything I'd managed to grab before security escorted me out. Some clothes, my laptop, my phone, and the thumb drive from Rebecca. First time. The woman on the cot next to mine was maybe 50, with kind eyes and weathered hands. That obvious. You've still got that shell-shocked look. It fades. She extended a hand. I'm Karen. Melody. What's your story, Melody? If you don't mind me asking. What was my story? I'm secretly a multimillionaire being destroyed by my racist adoptive family. I'm living in a shelter while I wait for my inheritance to process so I can destroy the people who put me here. Family trouble, I said instead. Got kicked out. Aren't we all here because of family trouble, one way or another? Karen smiled sadly. Well, welcome to the Mission Street family, I guess. We look out for each other here. That night, lying on a cot that smelled like bleach and broken dreams, I cried for the first time since Rebecca died. Really cried. Ugly, gasping sobs that I tried to muffle in my thin pillow. This was their plan. Break me down. Strip away everything until I had nothing left but desperation. Make me so desperate that I'd sign anything, agree to anything, just to have a roof over my head and food in my stomach. But as the tears finally dried and exhaustion pulled me toward sleep, I felt something else stirring underneath the grief and humiliation. Rage. Cold, calculating rage that reminded me I wasn't actually helpless. I was choosing this. Choosing to let them push me to the bottom so the climb back would be that much more devastating for them. Rebecca had known they'd try this. That's why she'd given me those recordings, those documents, that evidence. She'd known I'd need proof not just of their greed, but of their cruelty. And now I had it. My phone buzzed. I'd been charging it at the public library, rationing the battery like it was gold. A text from Jonathan. I know what they did. Come to my office tomorrow morning. I'll send a car. The next morning, Jonathan took one look at me, unwashed, wearing yesterday's clothes, dark circles under my eyes, and his expression went hard. Those bastards, he said quietly. They froze my accounts. Filed false fraud claims. Locked me out of the house. My voice was flat, emotionless. I was too tired for anger. I assume that's legal somehow. Legal? Barely. Ethical? Not even close. He gestured to a chair. Sit. We need to talk. He poured coffee, and I wrapped my hands around the warm cup like it was a lifeline. The fraud claims are completely fabricated, Jonathan said. I've already got people working to unfreeze your accounts, but it takes time. The bureaucracy is intentionally slow. How long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. In the meantime, he pulled out a checkbook. I'm authorized to provide emergency funds from the estate for your immediate needs. They'll say I'm stealing. They can say whatever they want. You're the legal beneficiary, and you need housing. Here. He wrote a check and slid it across the desk. $50,000. I stared at it. Jonathan. It's your money, Melody. Take it. Get a hotel room. Buy clothes. Eat something that isn't from a shelter cafeteria. His voice softened. Rebecca would be furious if she knew I let you live on the streets even for a day. I took the check with trembling hands. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just promise me you're not giving up. Giving up. I looked at him and felt that cold rage returning. They kicked me out of my home. Froze my accounts. Made me homeless. All because they think I'm too weak, too broken to fight back. I stood. I'm not giving up, Jonathan. I'm getting ready to burn their entire world down. He smiled. That's what I wanted to hear. Because I found something interesting while investigating the fraud claims. He pulled up documents on his computer. The complaint was filed by a Patricia Huntington, claiming you'd used Rebecca's identity to access accounts and forge documents. But look at the timeline. I leaned forward, studying the dates. She filed the fraud claim 2 days before Rebecca's will was read. Before she could have known about the inheritance. Exactly. Which means she planned this in advance. She knew about the will, knew you were the beneficiary, and prepared to destroy you financially before you even found out. Jonathan's expression was grim. That's conspiracy to commit fraud. And I can prove it. How? Because Patricia made one critical mistake. She emailed her lawyer about the plan. And that lawyer has an ethical obligation to preserve evidence when fraud is involved. He turned over everything. He showed me the emails. Patricia's words, preserved forever in digital ink. We need to freeze her accounts immediately after the reading. Make it look like legitimate fraud investigation. By the time it's resolved, she'll be desperate enough to take any settlement we offer. File the police report in advance. Have everything ready. The moment Pierce reads that will, we execute. She's just some foster kid. She won't know how to fight back. This will be easy. Easy. They thought I'd be easy. Can we use these? I asked. Absolutely. They demonstrate premeditation, conspiracy, and intent to defraud you of your inheritance. We can file criminal charges if we want. Not yet. I was thinking, pieces falling into place. If we file now, they'll lawyer up. Hide. We need them to keep going. Keep making mistakes. Melody, they made you homeless. How much more? I can handle it. What I can't handle is them getting away with this. I met his eyes. Rebecca left me those recordings for a reason. She wanted me to see exactly who they were. Well, I'm seeing it. And I'm documenting all of it. What's your plan? I thought about Patricia's final message. Do your worst. There's a charity gala in 6 weeks, I said slowly. The annual Williams Foundation benefit. Rebecca chaired it for 20 years. I'm aware. Patricia has taken over planning it this year. Perfect. She'll use it to cement her position as Rebecca's true heir. Show everyone she's carrying on the legacy. I smiled, cold and determined. I want to be there. They'll never let you in. You're persona non grata. I know. That's why I need you to get me in. As your guest. Anonymous. They won't recognize me if I'm cleaned up, hairstyled differently. I'll blend in. And then what? And then, in front of everyone who matters in San Francisco society, I'm going to reveal everything. The adoption. The inheritance. Their fraud. Their racism. Every recorded conversation, every threatening email, every piece of evidence Rebecca collected. I felt that cold rage crystallizing into purpose. They wanted to destroy me publicly? I'm going to return the favor. Jonathan studied me for a long moment. You've thought this through. I've had a lot of time to think. Homeless shelters aren't great for sleeping, but they're excellent for planning revenge. He laughed, short and sharp. Rebecca really did choose the right person. All right. I'll get you into that gala. But Melody, are you sure? Once you do this, there's no going back. Your life will change forever. My life already changed. Rebecca died. They threw me out. They tried to break me. I stood, squaring my shoulders. Now I'm going to show them what a mistake that was. The 6 weeks between that meeting and the gala passed in a strange suspended reality. I moved into a modest hotel in the Tenderloin, paid for with Jonathan's check. Nothing fancy, the kind of place where no one asked questions and the walls were thin enough to hear your neighbors' entire lives. But it was mine. My space. My sanctuary while I planned their downfall. The fraud investigation was quietly resolved after Jonathan submitted Patricia's incriminating emails to the authorities. My accounts were unfrozen, though I barely touched them. I was living small, staying invisible, letting them think they'd won. And every day, they gave me more ammunition. Patricia was everywhere on social media now, playing the grieving sister-in-law with Oscar-worthy performance. She'd taken over Rebecca's foundation, Rebecca's charity boards, Rebecca's entire social infrastructure. Photos showed her cutting ribbons, giving speeches, accepting awards on Rebecca's behalf. In every photo, she wore Rebecca's jewelry. Pieces I recognized from childhood, from Christmas mornings and special dinners. A diamond bracelet Rebecca loved. Pearl earrings passed down from her grandmother. Patricia had claimed them all, wearing my mother's legacy like trophies. The caption on one photo made me physically ill, continuing Rebecca Williams' important work. She would be so proud. The comments were worse. So glad the foundation is in good hands. Rebecca's legacy lives on through you. Thank goodness that Gold Digger didn't get control of everything. That last one had 53 likes. I screenshot everything. Documented dates, times, comments. Built my case one post at a time. Jasmine came to visit me twice a week, bringing food and sanity. She was the only person who knew where I was, what I was planning. You look different, she said one afternoon, studying me over Chinese takeout. Harder. Is that bad? I don't know yet. You're scaring me a little. She picked at her low mane. Are you sure about this gala plan? It's so public. So permanent. That's the point. But what if it backfires? What if people don't believe you? What if they side with Patricia anyway? Then I'll know the truth about this world. I set down my chopsticks. But I have evidence, Jazz. Recordings, emails, documents. Rebecca's testimony from beyond the grave. They can't dismiss all of that. People dismiss evidence all the time when it's inconvenient. Her voice was soft, worried. Especially when it comes from someone who looks like us. She wasn't wrong. I'd be a young black woman accusing prominent white socialites of racism and fraud. Even with proof, there would be people who'd find ways to discredit me, to explain it away, to protect their own. But I couldn't let that fear stop me. Rebecca believed I could do this, I said. She left me everything I needed to fight back. I have to try. Jasmine reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Okay. Then I'm with you. Whatever you need. Actually, there is something. I pulled up a photo on my phone. The gala is black tie. I need a dress that says, "I'm not here to play." Know anyone who can help? She grinned. Babe, you came to the right person. My roommate works at a consignment shop in Hayes Valley. Designer dresses, fraction of the price. Will make you look like the heiress you actually are. 3 days before the gala, Jonathan called with news. David knows, he said without preamble. My stomach dropped. Knows what? About the gala plan. Not the details, but he knows you're planning something. I don't know how, maybe he has someone watching me, maybe it was a lucky guess. But he's suspicious. What did he say? He came to my office yesterday. Threatened me, actually. Said if I helped you cause a scene at the gala, he'd file a complaint with the state bar. Claim I'd violated attorney-client privilege, acted unethically. Can he do that? He can try. It won't go anywhere, I haven't violated anything. But it shows how nervous they're getting. Jonathan paused. Melody, he also said something else. He said, and I quote, "That girl doesn't understand what she's dealing with. If she shows up at that gala, she'll regret it." A threat. An actual, direct threat. Good, I said. Good. It means I'm getting to them. They're scared. I felt that cold smile returning. Scared people make mistakes. Or they get dangerous. Let them be dangerous. I've been homeless, broke, and destroyed in the press. What else can they do to me? I can think of several things, and none of them are pleasant. His voice was serious. I'm hiring security for you. Professional, discreet. They'll be at the gala, watching your back. That's not necessary. It's non-negotiable. Rebecca trusted me to protect you, and I'm not letting anything happen on my watch. The night before the gala, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my hotel room, listening to sirens and street noise, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. Rebecca finding me in that foster home. The years of love and lessons. Her death. Their betrayal. The shelter. The stolen jewelry. Every moment of pain and rage crystallizing into tomorrow night. My phone buzzed at 2 a.m. Unknown number. I know you're planning something, you ungrateful little bitch. Stay away from my gala, or I will destroy you more thoroughly than you can imagine. This is your final warning. Patricia. Had to be. I stared at the message, then screenshot it. Added it to my evidence folder. Then I texted back, "See you tomorrow night. Wear something nice. It'll be memorable." I turned off my phone and finally fell asleep, dreaming of justice. The next evening, Jasmine came over at 4 to help me get ready. She brought the dress, a stunning midnight blue gown that hugged my curves and made my dark skin glow. Simple. Elegant. Powerful. You look like a queen, she breathed as I turned in front of the mirror. I didn't feel like a queen. I felt like a warrior putting on armor. My hair was styled in natural curls that framed my face. Minimal makeup, just enough to look polished. Rebecca's gold locket around my neck, the only piece of her jewelry I'd managed to save. Inside was a photo of us, taken on my 16th birthday. Both of us laughing, her arm around my shoulders. For courage, I whispered, touching it. Jonathan picked me up at 7. Security, 2 discreet professionals who looked like regular gala attendees, were already in place at the venue. Last chance to back out, Jonathan said as we drove toward the St. Regis Hotel, where the gala was being held. Not a chance. Then let's go remind them who Rebecca's daughter really is. The hotel ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids, champagne flowing like water. San Francisco's elite circulated in designer gowns and tuxedos, air-kissing and networking. Patricia held court near the center, resplendent in a silver gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. She was laughing, one hand touching the arm of a tech billionaire, playing the gracious hostess. She was wearing Rebecca's diamond necklace. The one Rebecca wore to every important event. The one she'd promised would be mine someday. My hands clenched into fists. "Easy," Jonathan murmured. "Remember the plan." The plan. Yes. I'd give them one more chance to show their true colors. One more opportunity to dig their own graves deeper. I took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and melted into the crowd, just another guest in an expensive dress. Watching. Waiting. David appeared at Patricia's side, and they moved toward the stage where a microphone waited. Time for speeches, apparently. Time for them to celebrate Rebecca's legacy while erasing me from it. "Ladies and gentlemen," Patricia's voice rang out, amplified across the ballroom. "Thank you all for coming to continue Rebecca Williams' vital charitable work." I listened to her speech, each word like a knife. She talked about family, about legacy, about carrying on Rebecca's vision. She thanked David for his support. She thanked the donors for their generosity. She never mentioned me. Not once. When she finished, applause filled the room. People dabbed at their eyes, moved by her performance. That's when I saw it. On the screen behind the stage, photos of Rebecca cycling through. Rebecca at charity events. Rebecca with Patricia. Rebecca with David. And then, for just a split second, a photo of Rebecca with me. Young me, maybe 13, both of us at a museum. You could see the love in Rebecca's expression as she looked down at me. The photo vanished, replaced by another of just Rebecca alone. They tried to erase me. Literally cut me out of her history. That was the final straw. I handed my champagne to Jonathan and started walking toward the stage. "Melody," he hissed. "Not yet." But I was done waiting. The room seemed to slow down as I walked toward the stage. Conversations dimmed. Heads turned. I felt every eye in that ballroom tracking my movement, watching this unknown woman in the midnight blue gown approach Patricia Huntington during her moment of triumph. Patricia saw me when I was halfway across the room. Her expression shifted from confusion to recognition to absolute horror in the span of 3 heartbeats. "Security," she hissed into her microphone, the word carrying across the suddenly silent ballroom. "We have an uninvited guest." Actually, Jonathan's voice rang out from behind me, clear and authoritative. "Ms. Williams is my guest. And she has every right to be here. This is, after all, her mother's foundation." The room erupted in whispers. People's phones came out, already recording. This was about to go viral, and everyone knew it. I climbed the steps to the stage, my heels clicking against the polished wood. Patricia backed away like I was contagious, clutching Rebecca's necklace at her throat. "What are you doing?" she spat, her voice low and venomous. "You have no right." "I have every right." I turned to face the crowd, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Good evening. For those who don't know me, my name is Melody Williams. Rebecca Williams was my mother." "She was not your mother." Patricia's composure cracked completely. She was a woman who made a mistake, who took pity on a foster child, who legally adopted me when I was 9 years old, I said clearly. Who raised me, loved me, and left me everything when she died 6 months ago. The whispers became a roar. Phones were definitely recording now. This was San Francisco society drama at its finest, and no one wanted to miss it. David appeared at the edge of the stage, his face purple with rage. "Get off this stage right now, or I will have you arrested for trespassing." "On what grounds?" "This is a public charity event, and I'm a guest of the estate attorney." I looked at Jonathan, who nodded. "But please, call the police. I have quite a lot to discuss with them." "You manipulative little," Patricia lunged toward me, but Jonathan's security stepped forward, blocking her path. I pulled out a small remote from my clutch, the one Jonathan had prepared for me. Behind me, the photo slideshow stopped. The screen went black. "Rebecca Williams was an extraordinary woman," I said, my voice carrying to every corner of that ballroom. "She was generous, kind, and brilliant. She was also my mother in every way that mattered. And before she died, she knew exactly what her family would do to me. "This is slander," David shouted. "I'm calling my lawyers." "Please do. Because what I'm about to show you is all documented, verified, and admissible in court." I pressed the button on the remote. The screen behind me came to life. Audio began to play, crystal clear through the ballroom speakers. Patricia's voice, recorded at a family dinner 3 years ago. "I don't understand why we have to keep pretending that girl is family. She's a charity project Rebecca refuses to give up. It's embarrassing." The room went silent. You could hear breathing. David's voice, "Same dinner. Rebecca has always had this savior complex. First it was animal shelters, then homeless shelters, then she brought one home. We just have to wait it out." I watched Patricia's face drain of color. Watched David's jaw clench so hard I thought he might shatter his teeth. But I wasn't done. More clips played. Years of them, Rebecca's secret recordings capturing every racist comment, every dismissive remark, every moment they thought no one important was listening. "Patricia, at a charity luncheon, between you and me, I think Rebecca only adopted that black girl to look progressive. It's all about appearances with her." David, on the phone with his sister, "The moment Rebecca dies, that girl is out. I don't care what some adoption papers say. She's not really family, and she knows it." The ballroom was in complete chaos now. Gasps, exclamations, the click and flash of phones recording everything. Society matrons who'd been dabbing their eyes at Patricia's speech now stared at her with open disgust. "Turn it off," Patricia shrieked. "Turn it off right now." "Why?" I asked calmly. "You said these things. You thought these things. I'm just making sure everyone knows who you really are. This is a legal recording. You can't." "Actually, I can. Because Rebecca recorded these in her own home, at her own dinners, at events she hosted. All perfectly legal." I turned back to the audience. But wait. There's more. The screen changed to documents. Bank records showing David's mismanagement of family funds. Emails between Patricia and her lawyer, planning to freeze my accounts and make me homeless. Text messages between the two of them, strategizing how to destroy my reputation. And then the final piece. A video, recorded by Rebecca in her bedroom just 2 weeks before she died. She looked frail, her skin pale, but her eyes were fierce. "My name is Rebecca Ann Williams," her recorded voice filled the ballroom. "I'm making this video because I know my husband and his sister will try to destroy my daughter after I'm gone. They've made that abundantly clear over the years. So let me be equally clear, Melody Williams is my daughter. Not my charity case. Not my project. My daughter. I adopted her legally and permanently because I loved her from the moment I met her." Rebecca's image smiled, sad and knowing. "I know what David and Patricia think of her. I've heard their comments, their slurs, their dismissive remarks about how she doesn't belong in our world. But here's the truth. Melody belongs anywhere she chooses to be. She's brilliant, compassionate, and strong. Stronger than either of them will ever be." Tears streamed down my face, but I didn't wipe them away. "I'm leaving her everything," Rebecca continued, "not out of guilt or pity, but because she's my daughter and she deserves it. And if David and Patricia are watching this, know that I documented everything. Every racist comment. Every threat. Every moment you showed your true colors. And I gave it all to Melody, so she could protect herself from you." Rebecca leaned closer to the camera, her expression hardening. "You underestimated her your entire lives. You underestimated me too. That was your mistake. And now you'll pay for it." The video ended. The ballroom was silent as a tomb. I turned to Patricia and David, who stood frozen at the edge of the stage. Rebecca left me $450 million. Every property, every investment, every asset she had. But more importantly, she left me the truth. And now everyone knows it. "You can't prove," David started. "I can prove all of it. I have the original recordings, the emails, the bank records. I have witnesses, staff members who heard your comments, who saw how you treated me. I have Rebecca's testimony." I stepped closer to them. "And I have something else. The fraud complaint you filed against me, Patricia. The one you filed 2 days before the will was read. The one that proves you knew about the inheritance and planned to steal it. Patricia's face went from pale to green. I never. You did. And it's all documented. The police are very interested in talking to you about conspiracy to commit fraud. Jonathan filed the paperwork this afternoon. The room erupted again. People were already heading for the exits, phones pressed to their ears, calling friends and lawyers and reporters. The society scandal of the decade was unfolding in real time. This isn't over, David said, his voice shaking with rage. We'll fight this. You'll lose, I said simply. You already have. Everyone in this room just saw who you really are. Every person watching the live streams and videos people are posting right now knows the truth. Your reputation is destroyed. Your social standing is gone. And legally, you don't have a leg to stand on. I looked out at the remaining crowd. Some faces showed shock, others satisfaction. The old guard who dismissed me as a charity case now wouldn't meet my eyes. But others, particularly the younger generation, people of color who'd fought their own battles to belong in these spaces, were smiling. Rebecca Williams raised me to be strong, I said, addressing the room one final time. To stand up for what's right. To use privilege and power to help others, not to hoard it or use it as a weapon. That's what I intend to do with her legacy. The Williams Foundation will continue its work, real work, not the performative charity you just witnessed. And it will do so in honor of the woman who taught me that family isn't about blood or skin color. It's about love. I pulled Rebecca's locket from around my neck, opened it to show the photo of us together. This is family. This is love. And no amount of racism or greed can take that away from me. I walked off that stage with my head high, Jonathan falling into step beside me. Behind us, I heard Patricia screaming, David shouting, the crowd's noise rising to a fever pitch. We made it to Jonathan's car before I finally broke down, sobbing with relief and grief and triumph all mixed together. You did it, Jonathan said quietly, handing me tissues. Rebecca would be so proud. I just want her back, I choked out. I want my mom back. I know. But you honored her. You finished what she started. He squeezed my shoulder. And you won. The aftermath was chaos. By morning, the videos had gone viral. #Williams Gala was trending nationwide. Think pieces appeared about racism in high society, about inherited wealth, about the treatment of adopted children of color in white families. Patricia and David were, as I'd predicted, destroyed. Their social invitations dried up overnight. The society women who'd air-kissed Patricia just yesterday now crossed the street to avoid her. David resigned from every board, every club, every position of influence he'd held. The fraud investigation made headlines, and while they'd eventually escape criminal charges through expensive lawyers and technicalities, their reputations were permanently ruined. The house in Pacific Heights was finally, officially mine. I walked through it a week after the gala, touching Rebecca's things, crying in every room. But I didn't move back in. Not yet. The mansion held too many memories, too much pain mixed with the joy. Instead, I opened it up. Made it a museum dedicated to Rebecca's life and work. Her art collection stayed on the walls, but now everyone could see it. The library became a reading room for underprivileged kids. The music room hosted free lessons. The Williams Foundation was restructured under my leadership. Real investments in homeless services, foster care reform, arts education. The causes Rebecca had actually cared about, not the performative charity Patricia had showcased. Jasmine became my chief of staff. Someone has to keep you grounded, she said, hugging me tight. Can't have you turning into another society snob. Not likely, I laughed. I've seen what that does to people. 6 months after the gala, I stood in Rebecca's bedroom, my bedroom now, looking out at the San Francisco skyline. The city glittered in the dusk, all those lights representing all those lives, all those stories. My phone buzzed. An email from an address I didn't recognize. My heart stopped for a moment, remembering Rebecca's email from beyond the grave. But this one was from a foster kid in Oakland. A 13-year-old girl who'd seen the news coverage, who'd heard my story. Dear Ms. Williams, I'm in foster care too. Nobody wants me either because I'm too old and too angry. But I saw what you did. How you fought back. How you won. I just wanted to say thank you. For showing me that foster kids like us can be strong. Can win. Can belong. Maybe someday I'll be like you. Hope. I read the email 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Then I wrote back. Dear Hope. You already are like me. You're strong enough to reach out, brave enough to dream, smart enough to see the truth. That's everything you need. And you're not unwanted. Not by me. If you'd like to visit the Williams house sometime, I'd love to meet you. We have a great library, and I know a thing or two about feeling like you don't belong. Spoiler alert, you belong anywhere you decide to be. With love, Melody Williams. I sent the email and looked at Rebecca's photo on my nightstand. The one from my 16th birthday, both of us laughing, her arm around my shoulders. I did it, Mom, I whispered. I showed them who I really am. Who you raised me to be. The photo didn't answer, of course. But I swear I felt her presence, warm and loving and proud. She'd given me everything, not just money but courage. Not just wealth, but worth. Not just an inheritance, but a legacy of love that no amount of hatred could diminish. And I would spend the rest of my life proving she'd chosen the right person. The bank statement that had changed everything sat in a frame on my desk now. Not to show off the number, $450 million meant nothing compared to what I'd really inherited, but to remember. Remember that sometimes the people who should love you will betray you. Remember that wealth without character is worthless. Remember that the best revenge is becoming everything they said you couldn't be. I was Melody Williams. Daughter of Rebecca Williams. Heiress to a fortune built on love, not blood. And I was exactly where I belonged. My phone buzzed again. More emails from foster kids, from young women of color who'd seen themselves in my story, from people who'd been underestimated and dismissed and told they didn't belong. I answered every single one. Because that's what Rebecca had taught me. Power isn't about hoarding it. It's about using it to lift others up. To show them they matter. To prove that family is chosen, love is unconditional, and justice, real justice, always finds a way. Outside my window, San Francisco glowed in the darkness. The city where I'd been raised, rejected, and ultimately redeemed. The city that would now watch as I transformed Rebecca's legacy into something even more powerful than she'd imagined. I thought about Patricia and David, probably sitting in their diminished lives, bitter and broken. Part of me felt sorry for them, the part Rebecca had nurtured, that believed in compassion even for those who'd shown me none. But mostly, I felt free. Free from their hatred. Free from their judgment. Free from every limiting belief they tried to impose on me. I was my mother's daughter. And that was the greatest inheritance of all. 3 years later, the Williams Foundation had grown into one of the most impactful charitable organizations on the West Coast. We'd housed over 300 families, put 200 kids through college, funded arts programs in dozens of underserved schools. And I'd adopted a 13-year-old girl named Hope who'd emailed me that day, who'd spent 3 more years bouncing through foster care before I was finally approved as an adoptive parent. Mom, she called from downstairs. Are we still going to the museum today? Mom. The words still made my heart swell. Yeah, baby, I called back. Let me grab my purse. I paused at Rebecca's photo one more time. Thank you, I whispered. For showing me what love really looks like. For teaching me to fight. For trusting me with your legacy. And for the first time since her death, I felt her answer, not in words, but in the warmth that flooded my chest. The certainty that I'd done exactly what she'd hoped I would do. I'd taken their hatred and turned it into love. Their greed and turned it into generosity. Their attempt to destroy me and turned it into my greatest triumph. They'd thought keeping the inheritance secret would reveal who'd treat me right. Instead, it revealed who I really was. And I was so much more than they'd ever imagined. What would you do if your family turned against you the moment you inherited everything? Would you fight back or walk away? Share your thoughts below. I read every comment.
Wow, thank you so much for watching. Seriously, your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed this video, the biggest way you can show me love and encourage me to keep creating is to hit that like button and subscribe. Takes 1 second, but it makes a huge difference. Speaking of more videos, I've got another exciting one lined up for you. Just click on the next video showing right on your screen now to keep the fun going. See you there.